does focus mainly on the enabling environment and looks at how three particular interdependent rights impact on that enabling environment. So we focus very much on freedom of assembly and freedom of association, and now it's been kind of broadened to include freedom of expression because a lot of the issues affect people and civil society who work in that entire space. And we all know that civil society needs that enabling environment, but in areas around corruption, transparency, good governance, there's a growing move to clamp down on civil society and not allow them to operate. And I think it is because, as you say, Bobby, civil society is becoming more effective. We have more strategies. It's easier to organize. It's easier for people to get together and to take up some of these initiatives to try and fight corruption and human rights violations. The worrying trend has been how legislation and legal policies and administrative practices have been used to try and close the space for civil society and to prevent them from gathering, speaking out, even attending and being part of fora like these, where they can have an impact on the agenda of the World Bank, of the IMF, of some of these other multilateral organizations. There's a new publication which has just come out now from ICNL, Global Trends in NGO Law, and it looks at the period 2015-2016 and how many restrictive practices have been implemented in different countries. And there's about 64 laws, policies and practices which have been used to negatively impact on the space for civil society around freedom of assembly and association. The interesting thing is that it's not one particular region, it's all regions globally, which shows that this is not a problem on a particular continent or particular states or governments, but it's something which is being learnt and which is being implemented by a number of different states. I would encourage people to look at that publication. It gives some case examples and regional examples as well. But the ways in which the clampdown has happened has been using the law to try and restrict registration of civil society organizations, try and close them down, try and move people or organizations out of a particular country, to restrict their financing so that they're not able to remain sustainable and viable to carry out the activities that they need to do. So there's a range of different legal practices which are used, and we try and look at these laws and provide technical assistance on how they can be amended or policies can be improved so that states and civil society in particular countries can work in a better environment. Turning to Zimbabwe, I think it's a country which has been on the radar for a long time, and there's a bit of apathy and people are really a bit tired of what is happening. But I think you've seen a whole range of different challenges for civil society in that country. As far back as 2004, there was a big wave of collaboration with civil society to defeat an NGO law, which would have basically closed a lot of the democracy and human rights organizations and those working on anti-corruption, good governance issues. We see a lot how freedom of assembly and association is restricted through the way the state has clamped down on human rights defenders. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of interest from the World Bank, the IMF, around re-engagement, about economic investment in the country. It's at a very unstable position at the moment. And there's a lot of debate around whether or not there should be investment in the and the role of civil society, because civil society has really been sidelined from the discussion